Hello and welcome to this review of Hades 2 Early Access. Is it any good? Is it better than Hades 1? Is it Game of the Year contender? Well, we're going to answer all of those and more. And fair warning, there will be some spoilers regarding certain characters and boss fights in this video, so skip to the end if you want to avoid those. And with that said, let's dive right in. As someone that spent almost 100 hours in Hades 1, getting all of the Steam achievements and giving the game a really solid playthrough, I loved the first game with everything from the weapons, the boss fights, to the story and the voice acting. And ever since it was announced back in late 2023, I was excited to play Hades 2 on launch and jumped at the chance to play Early Access. Hades 2 comes with a fresh story centered around Melinoë, the new protagonist, who comes armed with a witch's staff as her starting weapon and the ability to unlock a whole host of new weapons as well. You'll see some familiar faces throughout the game as well as lots of new ones, with the core antagonist being Kronos, the father of Hades, Poseidon and Zeus, and known as the Titan of Time. But before you can get to Kronos, you'll need to traverse through 4 different regions. Erebus, the region where all the souls of the recently deceased initially arrive and wait before being taken to the rest of the underworld. This is the first region that you'll fight through with Headmistress Hecate as the end boss. Next up, we have Oceanus, a biome in the underworld that intersects with the edge of Poseidon's domain at the bottom of the ocean. You'll face Scylla and the Sirens, the end boss in this water region. And third, you have the Fields of Mourning, a more open region than the others. Here you'll have to find the location of your boons in the fields, using the tree to lead you in the right direction. Once you've battled through the fields, you'll have to face an angry and intimidating Cerberus before you can proceed. And the last region is Tartarus, a maze of dungeons and corridors which hold the souls of all those who committed crimes and sins in their lives. It also featured in Hades 1 as the first region, and this is now the final region in Hades 2, allowing you to pick a much more express route heading straight to Kronos, or deviate to a few extra rooms to pick up some much needed boons. I'll cover each of the bosses in more detail later in the video, but I do really like these regions. Although there's more to still be added to the game, I've clocked in over 170 hours so far. You're also able to venture to the surface, facing a variety of new enemies, 2 new boss fights with Polyphemus, a sheep-herding Cyclops that will grab you if you get too close, and Eris, a new character who is the personification of strife and the daughter of Nyx. She does range damage that multiplies over time as you fight her and can be a really deadly foe. I'll go more into the surface aspect of the game in another video, but I love having the choice even though the surface route is a lot shorter. It does feature some fun areas, moving through ships, interactions with Icarus, another new character, and the son of the inventor of the Daedalus hammer. But before we get into the combat and bosses, let's talk about the Olympians and boons in Hades 2. Along with a lot of familiar faces from Hades 1 such as Zeus, Poseidon, Demeter, Artemis, and lots more, we also have a bunch of cool new characters that provide boons such as Hestia, Hera, Hephaestus, Selene, as well as fun, friendly characters like Dora, Odysseus, Narcissus, Echo, and my personal favourite, Arachne, that you'll bump into throughout the game. Hades 2 provides a similar feeling while giving us lots of great new Olympian relationships to explore. Each Olympian has their own keepsake and a wealth of boons and duo boons available. I'll cover these in depth in another video, which is going to be dedicated to that topic. So let's move on to the story of Hades 2. It begins with Melinoë as the playable character and protagonist, revolving around her unwavering quest to defeat Kronos. Kronos will appear as an unknown character at first, making himself known before he becomes much more of an antagonist further you get into the game. Despite being able to defeat Kronos in a fight, he's never fully vanquished, and you'll need to go back multiple times, delivering more punishment. While this aspect of the story isn't fully fleshed out yet, I'm really excited to see the resolution of this story in the future. Another thing that many people fell in love with in Hades 1 was both the lore and the way the character relationships progress throughout the games. You give Olympians gifts such as nectar in order to further your relationships with them. And the further you progress in getting to the final boss and beyond, the more your character conversations will develop and the more story you can unlock. Hades 2 also does this, and in my opinion, it's just as good, if not better, than the first game. The full Hades 2 story isn't complete yet, so it's not a fair comparison, but I really love a lot of the attention to detail in the dialogue. Whether that's the keepsake or weapon you have equipped, whether that's being previously defeated or having defeated a certain boss, or even the speed that you're going or the health that you have. There's always these small moments where the attention to detail in the dialogue makes it feel like the game is really paying attention to your actions and that my run or current progress is really relevant to that moment. Now that you know who will be able to give you a helping hand along the way, let's talk combat. For me, I felt that Hades 2 has the same fast pace and impactful feel as Hades 1. Regardless of your playstyle, weapon, or the difficulty, the combat feels fun and intuitive and also allows for a chaotic combination of boons to maximize damage and suit your playstyle. You'll need to learn enemy and boss abilities in order to avoid consistently taking damage, and movement using dash and sprint is still just as important in Hades 2. There are definitely some annoying enemies out there, which for me are the sea serpents and the shellbacks in Oceanus, but once you get used to their abilities and how to handle them with different weapons and boons, they're not much more than a minor annoyance. I've really enjoyed the combat so much that it was one of the things that made me consider attempting speedruns, and so far I'm really not tired of it. And with lots of weapons to choose from, you can always add variety into the mix. So next, let's talk about those weapons. So far, Hades 2 has 5 different weapons, each with 3 different aspects, which can drastically change the playstyle and the boons that you're likely to take. In Hades 1, these were known as the Infernal Arms, but in Hades 2, they're known as the Nocturnal Arms. First up is the starter weapon Descura, also known as the Witch's Staff. This is good for close range attacks or long range specials. Next, we have Lim and Oros, the Sister Blades. Short range weapons that allow you to slash with furious attacks or strike from afar with a flurry of specials. The third weapon is Ignium, known as the Umbral Flames. With these, you can launch damaging ranged attacks as you move or fire off specials that orbit around you. The fourth, and one of my favourites so far, is Zoraphet, the Moonstone Axe. This delivers slow but devastating attacks, allows you to defend and retaliate with your specials, or unleash a whirlwind that hits all enemies in range. And lastly, the Argent Skull. Blast foes with explosive attacks and retrieve the skulls with lunging specials. Takes a bit of getting used to this one, but overall I think it's a really strong option. Since there are a lot of intricacies to each of these weapons and their individual aspects, I'll be making a separate comprehensive guide to weapons in the near future. So keep an eye out for that Hades 2 weapons guide coming soon. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please feel free to like and subscribe and drop a comment below. I really do appreciate it, and it really helps my small channel grow. Next, I want to talk about the bosses and mini-bosses. A big aspect of the Hades games are, of course, the big boss fights. At first, they're very intimidating and difficult, but you slowly come to master them the more you play and can up the difficulty to introduce new challenges and rewards if you want to. First challenge to overcome is Hecate, the Witch of the Crossroads. As your mentor in the quest against Kronos, she's less of an enemy and more of a test of strength to ensure that you're capable enough to move forward into Oceanus. She has a small range of abilities such as her torch attacks, triple divide, and lunar ray that offer some variety in the combat. I'll cover more of this in an upcoming boss guide, but overall she's not too difficult to manage. Once you've sunk through the depths of Oceanus, you'll come to Scylla and the Sirens, a deadly trio made up of Jetty on guitar, Roxy on the drums, and Scylla, the lead vocalist. While the music here is probably my favourite in the game, these three unleash chaos once the fight starts, so be sure to dodge what you can and take them down one by one. The penultimate boss after travelling through the Fields of Mourning is the infernal beast himself, Cerberus. Split into 2 phases, Cerberus can unleash some devastating moves that deal big damage if not avoided. And if you manage to make it all the way through the chaos and death traps of Tartarus, you'll have to confront Kronos himself in another 2-phase fight. Kronos has a range of abilities and summons minions in both phases. He can feel very daunting and challenging at first until you're able to familiarize yourself with his moves in both phases and know how to approach the fight. He'll drop to his knees once defeated and you can collect Zodiac Sand as a reward. This is currently only used for some upgrades at the moment, but I'm sure it will have more uses in the future. Overall, I have to say, aside from Scylla, which maybe I just enjoy because the music's so awesome, I prefer a lot of the boss fights in Hades 1 actually. While Cerberus does feel intimidating and can dish out some huge damage, in Hades 1, the Bone Hydra and Theseus fights both felt more fun on the way to Hades, and the Hades fight itself felt like a much more definitive end to the run. Still, there are a lot of great boss fights in this game, but for me, I think Hades 1 has the edge. So what's next for Hades 2? Well, let's not forget that Supergiant Games have said that the full release won't be until 2025. We're currently on patch 4 with many more changes, content updates, and balance and fixes to come. I don't expect any DLC, but there's certainly more to come to complete the story and make Hades 2 a fully rounded off game. I'm excited to keep playing Hades 2 as more content unfolds and find out whether Malinois can truly best Kronos and save Hades. Will Nyx or Zagreus feature? Will Hypnos ever wake up? We don't know yet, but I'm excited to find out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.